He turned pro in 1993 and has since become one of the best riders in the world of professional mountain biking, winning 2 consecutive championships in the North American trials. He's also the world record holder for the bunny hop with a 45.5-inch vertical leap on his bike. Let's take note with Jeff Lenosky, who performs about 150 mountain bike stunt shows a year at different venues around the country. Jeff is currently sponsored by Giant Bicycles and SRAM Components and also Toyota. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
You're 31 now and still going strong. Did you have any inkling as a kid that you might actually be making a living as a mountain bike stunt rider?
Not at all. I grew up in New Jersey, and when I was growing up, BMX wasn't even really that popular. So one day I saw a BMX magazine in a bookstore and picked it up and just had this affection for bicycles, and I kind of had to support it on my own. I had friends that would come in and out of the sport, but for some reason I just always enjoyed it and stuck with it. And then when I went to college, mountain biking started to pick up in popularity and stuff, and I had a job working at the bike shop, so I just got a mountain bike for transportation and ended up riding around with my friends all the time. And then when I went to college, I'd ride around campus and hop over benches and downstairs and things like that, and just totally did it for fun. And a few years later, I had a summer job again at the bike shop, and one of the guys there competed at trials, and he got me interested in it.
Now, as I said, you turned pro in 1993. Do you still have parents or other family members saying, okay, Jeff, when are you getting a real job?
I do a little bit. When I first got into it, I went to East Stroudsburg University, and then when I graduated, I had a real job for 2 years. And then when I announced to my parents I was going to quit my real job that I had gone to college for and stuff to ride my bikes, you know, needless to say, they weren't too excited. So they were a little skeptical. And then about a year later, I got on Regis and Kathy Lee, and that pretty much impressed my mom enough that she stayed off my back for a while.
You arrived.
Yeah,
you arrived. In fact, Regis and Kathy Lee is just one of a number of programs that you've done, and I said in the beginning you do about 150 stunt shows a year at venues across the country. In this profession, is there a fear that sometimes, you know, to make your each show better than the next, do you ever get a little fearful that you're pushing the envelope, that you're doing more than maybe is physically possible?
Really, the time when you push the envelope is when we're filming for like some of these movies and videos and stuff like that, because you can do multiple takes and, you know, cut out the bloopers and stuff. With the shows, we try to keep it pretty controlled and pretty safe. So to somebody watching, it looks, you know, pretty impressive and exciting and stuff, but it's still well within our comfort level. Once in a while, you might, you know, try something towards the end of the demo or something like that that you might not have tried before, but it's usually within your comfort range, because the whole thing is just to provide an entertaining show for the spectators. And most of the times I travel around and I do these demos, no one's ever seen anything like that before, so you could get away with doing just comfortable stuff.
You acknowledge yourself, though, that doing what you do requires a certain degree of insanity. I'm just wondering what you were thinking the first time you jumped your bike up on a handrail.
The trial stuff that I do, like when you watch any of these movies, I do a few different styles riding. I do trials. I also do like some free riding kind of stuff. The trial stuff, it's really controlled for the athlete, because you build up to it and you put a lot of base of knowledge into it from years and years of riding. So I've just gotten to the point where I'm comfortable enough on my bike where I can, you know, look at a handrail or some kind of obstacle that sits in front of me, and I know like how it's going to feel. I can look at it and I already have the feeling in my head, and I know what it's going to take to do it. Some of the free riding stuff is when it gets a little hairier, because then you start adding speed, and it is a little bit more gonzo type riding. And
here you are jumping from one handrail to another. This is part of the Chain Reaction series by DH Productions.
Yes.
You're riding a mountain bike, a conventional mountain bike with some adaptations, but this isn't a trick bike.
No, it's a mountain bike, and that's what makes it have such mass appeal, because you know, mountain biking is a pretty big sport, and somebody watches one of these videos or comes to a show and they can't believe that you're doing that on a mountain bike. There's a few modifications that make it a little bit easier to do these stunts, like we lower the seat and remove some gears and stuff like that, just, you know, the extra equipment that you don't really need. But for the most part, anybody could walk into the store and buy one of these bikes.
I think we have some more clips, and I want them to get them ready if they do. You have the world record for the bunny hop at 45.5 inches. Give us an idea. I mean, what are we talking about, and how did you, was this something you achieved incrementally?
Well, I've always, even when I skateboarded and stuff, like when I grew up riding BMX and when I skateboarded, I was always interested in like seeing how high I can go and stuff like that. So a bunny hop, when you do like a bunny hop competition, a bunny hop is riding your bike just on flat ground without the use of a ramp or anything like that, and just using a certain technique to lift the bike up and propel yourself through the air.
So this isn't the bunny hop. What do we got going on here?
Yeah, this would be a bunny hop right there.
Oh, okay. Right
Something
there.
where you're just riding on flat ground. You don't have a ramp or anything, and it just looks like you somehow lift the bike into the air. Well, there's a real technique that goes behind that, and it's basically pulling up on the handlebars really hard and then pushing them back away from you. But when you do a bunny hop competition, like when I set the world record and stuff, it's over a miniature high jump bar. So I set it a few years ago at 45.5 inches, and I haven't been able to go any higher since, but I don't think anybody else has gone any higher either. So yeah, there's a real technique that goes into that.
Now, you're over 6 feet tall. My guess is you're within about 200 pounds or so. Is your size an advantage or a disadvantage in the world of mountain bike stunt riding?
I think for the kind of stuff that I do, it's, has disadvantages and disadvantages. There's other disciplines of mountain biking I could never excel at. For instance, cross-country racing, most of those guys are really small. If you're 150 pounds, you're starting to get heavy because you need to carry all that weight up a hill. But for me, riding a fixed size bike, if I'm 6'4", it's a lot more maneuverable for me. So I might have a little bit of an advantage maneuvering the bike and throwing it around and maybe bunny hopping. But then there is the advantage, once you get up on something, you still need to come down. And I have, 200 plus pounds coming down. So there is that disadvantage. So I'd say, probably works out even. Some guys could, do higher drops, and I could go a little higher going up.
Many injuries in this almost 10-year professional career?
Riding trials has been pretty safe, but I also do all these other forms of riding and with a little bit more speed involved, and that's when I tend to get hurt. But, after 10 years, I've separated my shoulder and broken some ribs and an ankle, but if I was playing basketball or football, I probably would have just as long of a laundry list of injuries. So.
And it sounds like a price you're willing to pay because you're having fun. I mean, it's a fun job.
Yeah, it's a fun job. It's rewarding because you're constantly pushing yourself and trying to learn new things every time you go out and stuff like that.
Now, you were recently featured on Ripley's Believe It or Not, where they created an obstacle course especially for you. They called it the Ripleys Challenge. This was in Las Vegas,
yeah.
in Las Vegas, Nevada. You actually never had seen this course before? Hadn't been on it before the show?
No, I was in another mountain bike film that the people from Ripley's got a hold of, and they liked what they saw. It was a lot of the street riding and trials riding and stuff like that, and they wanted to try to build a course that would showcase like the versatility of a mountain bike, because that's really the best thing about a mountain bike, is that you can do so many different things. They're not as limited as, say, a BMX bike and stuff like that. So we kind of collaborated a little bit together, and they had some pretty far-fetched ideas, and they bounced them off me, and a lot of things like the spinning staircase you wouldn't typically ever get a chance to ride on, and I figured, yeah, we'll give it a shot, and we collaborated a little bit. They came up with this course, and we put together this gigantic obstacle course, the biggest one I've ever ridden, and we filmed it in Las Vegas, and it's been airing a few times over the fall now.
That must have been kind of a neat thing. Was you do a lot of shows, but being in front of that size of an audience, did that get you on your nerves or make it a little more? Normally
it wouldn't, because I tour around so much and do the demos. The thing that did, it was a little nerve-wracking, because we started to film the segment, or we were intended to film the segment at 9 o'clock at night, and the permit was over at midnight. And then due to just all kinds of production delays and whatnot, it was 11:55. And I basically had one chance to do that, and I had been standing around for 3 hours, and I flew in from New Jersey, so it was really like 3 o'clock in the morning for me, and I knew that I didn't have any chance. If I maybe made a mistake, they could tape it over or do something, and I basically had one chance to do it, and if I didn't do it, they had to tear the course down in 15 minutes or 5 minutes, and there was a crew of 20 people, and they trucked in this course, and so that was a little nerve-wracking, because I knew I had to nail it.
The real life behind the scenes in television. You know, you're sponsored. We said Giant Bicycles, SRAM Components, and Toyota. What does it mean exactly to be sponsored, and how many guys are there out there who actually are sponsored?
There's really only a handful in the U.S. It's kind of tough. Mountain biking is a popular sport, but it's really a participation sport. So, you know, 10 years ago, mountain bike races drew huge crowds, and there was a lot more outside the industry sponsors and stuff involved. Now it's starting to tighten up a little bit. Everybody still goes mountain biking on the weekends and stuff like that, and it's still a great sport, but they just don't go out to the races like they used to. It's more of a lifestyle now than a fad like it was 10 years ago.
But what does it mean for you as being sponsored and a professional? How does that work?
I guess the reason that I'm, you know, attractive to a potential sponsor is the fact that I get their products in front of people. So I do these events and I, you know, win titles and stuff like that. So it validates me and what I do. But the real thing that they're interested in is being able to get on TV programs and tour around and do these demonstrations. I've done demos at the Winter Olympics and the Gravity Games and, you know, all kinds of bike retailers and car dealerships. So that's what's nice about what I do. I have the ability from the type of competition that I do. I have the ability to go to these places and actually perform. Whereas, you know, a cross-country race or something, you need a big ski resort or, you know, 30 miles of trail to really show what you're made of. I can do it right at a dealership or something.
Are there certain aspects of this sport? You talked about trials, and you're also involved in speed trials, and of course you're a stunt rider as well. Is there a particular aspect that is growing the most in popularity?
I think probably the speed trials, and then also some of the free riding, and there's like urban free riding, and there's also off-road free riding. I think I kind of draw the same correlation to snowboarding. You know, 10 years ago, snowboarding was a really big sport, and everybody raced snowboards and that and whatnot. And now the thing that really drives it is just the free riding, kids watching the videos and magazines and stuff like that. And I think it's drawing a parallel with mountain biking because 10 years ago, you could throw your leg over a mountain bike race and throw your leg over a mountain bike and do a race, and everybody would line up to watch it because it was just exciting to watch a mountain bike because the bicycle was new. The sport was new, the bicycle was new, and just seeing somebody on a mountain bike was exciting. And now it's matured to the point where now they want to see something. They want to see some progressive style of riding. So the speed trials, the free riding, where guys are really pushing the limits of the sport, that's what's really growing fast now. Okay,
we have just a couple of seconds remaining. What advice would you have for some young up-and-coming bike rider?
I would just say to go out on your bike and have fun, and if you really enjoy what you're doing, you're going to get good at it, and it's kind of hard to plan a career in biking. You know, I would just go out and have fun, and if it's going to happen, it's going to happen.
It's going to happen. Thanks so much for being with us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Our guest is Jeff Lenosky, and for Take Note, I'm Patty Satalia.
A copy of the program you've just seen can be purchased through Penn State Media Sales at mediasales.psu.edu or by calling 800-770-2111.